So we are going to revise the evolution unit, right? So this is unit number 11, and this is the segment that we are continuing, which is the one shot revision segment, right? We have already covered a number of units. If you haven't yet watched them, make sure you watch them and use them in your revision, use them in your quick glance of the entire segment, right? So we have already covered unit number 1, 2, 3, 4, then unit number 10. Now we are doing unit number 11, right? So let's begin. Evolution and behavior. Very easy unit, very scoring unit. In addition to that, very interesting unit, I would say, right? You get to have a lot of case study questions. You get to have a number of, what do I say, straightforward questions also. Sometimes we get statement wise questions as well. Sometimes directly 2 marker part B questions get asked in the examination. So all the topics are very, very interesting and important. Okay, let's begin. Now first thing is the emergence of the evolutionary theory. So when we talk about the evolution, the first thing comes to mind, how is the, or how are the various thoughts defined in. So first is the theory of Lamarck, right? Who described the evolutionary concept as the concept of use and disuse. By this, what do we mean? That is the body part or the body organ that gets used more, there are higher chances of that particular segment getting more evolved than the parts which are not being used up, right? So common example is your the giraffe's neck size. So this was the theory of use and disuse. Also over here, the inheritance of the acquired characters, right? Evolution is driven by inner vital force, that is the evolutionary segment, whatever is ongoing in an individual, whatever is getting evolved in an individual, it is as a result of the utilization of that particular segment, right? And it is rejected because the changes are not inherited. So if any change is not getting inherited in the next generation, that means that particular change is getting rejected by the body and it is not being utilized anymore. Then second was the theory of Darwin. Over here, the concept of natural selection, that is whatever or survival of the fittest. In the change of nature, or whenever there occurs any kind of change in the environment, there occurs the survival of only those individuals that can easily adapt to the segment, right? So variation is heritable. Overproduction leads to the struggle. Differential fitness causes the natural selection to be there, right? And adaptation is the traits increasing the survival or the reproduction. Selection acts on the phenotype. Evolution occurs at population level. That is, selection or the changes that are there in the environment, they are done on the basis of their physical appearance. By physical appearance, we mean that it occurs based upon whatever traits they have, and can they survive that change? Can the individual survive that change in the environment? So, this was the theory of Darwin. Then there were many other theories that were put forward. First was, another theory was the evolutionary synthesis, which was the combination of the concept that was given by Mendel and that was given by Darwin, right? So Mendelian genetics was providing what? It was providing the various proof for the inheritance, right? Variation arises from recombination plus the mutations. Natural selection acts on the alleles. What are alleles? So different or alternative forms of a specific genes are called as alleles. So natural selection acts upon the alleles that changes the, like there occurs changes in the gene frequency. Then birth of, like because of Darwin and Mendel's concepts being like in what do we say, merged in together, there was birth of population genetics, right? Then another concept in evolution is mutation. Very very important topic. You can like get into the detailed part of mutation in unit number 8 as well, where the various formats, the various ways, causes, causative agents of mutation is very very important. Make sure that you um, pinpoint this particular topic in your preparation time, in your revision time specifically, right? And what is mutation all about? Mutation is the random and completely unpredictable change that occurs in the population, right? So variation occurs because of the mutation plus the recombination part, right? Then we have the mutation pressure plus the selection pressure. So when an individual have a sudden change in the allele frequency, not just the allele frequency, but any kind of sudden change that happens in the environment or in the individual altogether, it leads to the pressure of mutation. Same versus the selection pressure. This is majorly because of the alteration that occurs in the environment altogether, right? Then we have very important topics of various hypotheses, various experiments that were there, right? So origin of cells and unicellular evolution. Over here, one is the O'Brien-Haldane hypothesis, second is the Miller-Urey experiment. So O'Brien-Haldane hypothesis states that the organic molecules, the organic segments that were there in the early environment of the on earth, it was formed abiotically. What do you mean by abiotically? That means it was formed as a result of the non-living segments. So over here there were pre-cellular structures formed as a result of the protobionts availability. Then it was the Miller and Urey experiment, second experiment that was there. So this has been asked in the examination about what was there in this uh, gas electrode, glass electrode. So in this entire setup, there were four things that were mixed in together. You had CH4, ammonia, methane, ammonia, H2 and H2O, plus the electric spark was there, which led to the formation or which led to the origination of your organic molecules, right? This was the Miller and Urey experiment. Then there was origin of the first cells. So according to the information that was put forward, so there was a hypothesis which was called as the RNA world hypothesis. So over here, RNA acted as catalyst plus the genetic material. Protobionts are the primitive cells. The first cell over here was anaerobic heterotrophic prokaryote, right? Then you have the evolution of the metabolism. So there were three various, like there were n number of ways, some of them were put forward. One was anaerobic heterotrophy, that was fermentation, photosynthesis from anoxygenic organisms to the oxygenic organisms production, then rise of oxygen, the aerobic respiration got evolved on earth, right? Then there was symbiotic theory, right? The evolution of your prokaryotes. First archaea and bacteria, they diverged early. Then we had the chemolithotrophs that evolved after the heterotrophs. Then we had the evolution of eukaryotes, which was the main endosymbiotic theory, right? Over here, the mitochondria, they were the aerobic bacteria. Chloroplast was the cyanobacteria. Evidences, how do we like, what do we say? Conclude this particular segment with the help of the evidence presence of circular DNAs, 70S ribosomes, replication by binary fission, etc. Then we had the evolution of the unicellular eukaryotes. So protists arose that gave rise to multicellular lineage later on, right? Then we had the paleontology and evolutionary history in this very, 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 very important segment of geological time scale. You can get this question in n number of ways. You can get the question in the format of the order. You can get the question in the form of the sequence of what is eon, era, epoch, period, etc. Their durations. You can get it in the form of age of, let's say, mammals, reptiles, fishes. Anything could be asked in. You can get a question in match the following format, direct, straightforward, 2 marker, 4 marker, case study format. So make sure, like, this is something completely based on rote memorization. Okay, complete rote memorization is there in this. If you want, you can have some mnemonics remembered for learning this geological time scale. I always suggest just one thing, whenever you want to go for something which is very very static and which requires a lot of effort, write it on a sheet of paper yourself and paste it on your study table or paste it in front of your study table altogether, and try reading it on regular basis. It is going to get imprinted in your mind with time, and you will not have to like invest any other or invest a lot of energy into that segment. Okay, so geological time scale. Precambrian, the first life was there, prokaryotic, eukaryotic. Paleozoic, fish, amphibians, reptiles. Mesozoic, dinosaurs dominate, birds evolve, ends with asteroids. And then Cenozoic, mammals dominance was there, primitive and human evolution, right? See, this is the geological time scale. I've tried to add it on from here for you over here. You can see eons, era, period, date, and what are the various significant events. This is very colorful for you, so it will help you out in understanding or making a demarcation in your mind. There has been n number of questions based upon, they can ask you this particular sequence, Haldane, Archaea, Proterozoic, Phanerozoic. They can ask you this order, Phanerozoic, Mesozoic, Cenozoic. They can ask you orders from here. They can ask you about when was the first land plant seen, when was the age of fishes, when was the mass extinction there, when was the age of dinosaurs. So n number of segments are there in which can be asked in the examination, right? So make sure that you keep a note of this. You can either take a screenshot here or you'll be getting this presentation. You can take it from there, right? Then what are the major events that is written down over here? Then we have primate and human evolution. So what is the order of the primates and the human evolution? So this is the order. What are the key species? So you have various key species being there in the order. Last was your Homo sapiens, which was symbolic thought, which had symbolic thought language as the main segment. Is before that we had the previous class. Then there was fire and migration, tool use, bipedal, etc. So that you can get a number of questions from here as well. Maybe in the segment of sequence, order, or anything could be asked in from here, right? Then we have molecular evolution, again very important. So there was a theory called as the neutral theory of evolution, which was given by Moto Kimura. So most of the evolutions are neutral. That is, when there occurs any random change, random orientation, it's more or less very much neutral. No positive or negative impact out there, right? Evolution is random fixation by the genetic drift. Then you have molecular clock arises from constant mutation rate. So there's a formula for constant mutation rate. Can you recall the formula for the same? If yes, let me know in the comment sections. What is the formula for calculating the constant mutation rate? Then molecular clock says that the rate of change is more or less constant. It is used to estimate the divergence times, and it works best for your neutral sequences, right? Then what are the tools in your phylogeny? You have rRNA sequences, mitochondrial DNA, DNA barcoding, and alignment being the various tools in your phylogeny. Then origin of the new genes is via gene duplication, which is the main source of new genes being there, and what are the various fates via which you can have the duplicates being formed. Neo-functionalization, sub-functionalization, pseudogenization. Neo-functionalization means when a new gene adapts to a completely new function. Sub-functionalization means when a new gene is given a secondary function to it, right? So that's also important. After this, we have the engine of the evolutionary innovation. So let's continue. The engine of the evolutionary innovation. So gene duplication is the main source of your genetic novelty. That means it is the main source via which we have the new gene formation being there, right? So it can occur via the whole genome duplication or via the small scale segmental duplication. What are the three fates of your duplicated genes? So there are three segments which we have just seen over here: neo-functionalization, sub-functionalization, and pseudogenization, right? So neo is that one copy retains the original and the other one evolves a complete new function, which I've just told you. Sub-functionalization, both copies specialize and they take up a part of the original gene, multifunction. And you have pseudogenization, so one copy accumulates mutation and becomes a non-functional pseudogene. Pseudo means something which is a gene but not a correct gene. Pseudo means false, right? The term pseudo means false, right? Then paralogous versus orthologous. So duplicated genes within a species are paralogous, and genes in the different species evolved from a common ancestors are orthologous in nature. Remember about this as well. See over here, orthologous and orthologous. The ones, repeating it again, orthologous is what? Genes in different species that evolved from a common ancestor. You have a common ancestor, and this common ancestors have different genes over here, right? So these are orthologous group. Paralogous is what? Duplicated genes within the species. So when you have the duplicated genes pair being seen in, taken into consideration, right? Then you have mechanism of evolution. So basic population genetics. Population is the interbreeding individuals. Gene pool is all the alleles. Gene frequency changes is evolution, right? Then we have Hardy-Wingber principle or Hardy-Wingber rule, Hardy-Wingber law, whatever you want to call it. So two formulas: P plus Q equal to 1, P square plus Q square plus 2PQ equal to 1, right? What are the conditions for the Hardy-Wingber principle or Hardy-Wingber law? First one is no mutation, no migration, no natural selection, complete random mating, and large population size being there. It is used to find what? It is used to find out the various frequencies, allele frequencies, etc., right? So P refers to the dominant gene, Q is your recessive gene, P square is homozygous dominant, Q square is homozygous recessive, and 2PQ is heterozygous situation. What are the forces that changes the gene frequency? Natural selection, genetic drift, and your migration. Natural selection is three major types: directional, stabilizing, and disruptive. Fitness determines the allele frequency change that we have. Genetic drift, strong in small populations. Founder effect and bottleneck effect. Founder effect is when you have an entire group of individuals, the entire population, and some of them decides to move out of the area without any uh, reason or without any specific reason to it. So they just move out. That is founder effect. Bottleneck effect is when you have a very large or a very significant decrease in the allele frequency all of a sudden in the entire population. So it is like you have a complete bottle full of various variations in the alleles, and as a result of a drastic change, when you tilt the bottle, only few of the balls will be coming out and all of them will remain and get destroyed. So same over here. That's why the allele frequency, the bottleneck effect is Like the bottle is taken into consideration as an example over here, that when you have the entire bottle which represents, or a bottle filled with various different color balls, and you try to tilt the bottle, and there would be very few of them only coming out, and others would stay stuck in the bottle itself. So that is what the bottleneck effect is, right? Then we have migration. So it reduces the differences between populations, it increases the variation within the population. Then adaptive radiation is what? When you have a common ancestor, because of the pressure, or because of the differences in the pressure of the population on the population, because of environment and n number of reasons, you have the individuals radiating, right? You get to see the diversification happening in, so rapid diversification from a common ancestor. Then see over here, see common ancestor, and you have rapid adaptation, rapid variation happening. Then we have various mechanisms for the same. What are the mechanisms? Isolating mechanisms. So two major mechanisms are here, pre-zygotic and post-zygotic. Pre-zygotic is habitat, temporal, behavioral, mechanical, and gametic. Post-zygotic is hybrid viability, hybrid sterility, etc. When we look into speciation, which is the formation of a new species, so in this we have three major types, or three major formats in which it happens: allopatric, parapatric, sympatric, and there's one more type, or one more format of it, which is peripatric. Allopatric is when there is isolating, or when there occurs geographic isolation. Sympatric is in the same area the individual isolate themselves. Parapatric when in the same area but parallelly they are staying. Peripatric is similar to your founder effect, right? Then convergent evolution is what? It is the unrelated species evolve similar traits, right? Convergent is unrelated species are there and they converge towards the same trait. Co-evolution is predator prey, host parasite, plant pollinator, right? So see, allopatric, peripatric, parapatric, and sympatric. Allopatric is individuals, there occurs a barrier formation because of which isolation is there and two different species are formed. Peripatric, when you have a group initially present, some of them decide to enter into the new area or move to the new location without any prior reason or anything like that. Parapatric, when they stay in the same parallel region but forms a new species. Last is sympatric, they stay in the same area, not even parallelly, but in the same area. They genetically decide to isolate themselves, right, in order to create a new, and with time, a new species is formed in. So remember, this is a very, very important slide for you. Then we have the next segment of brain behavior and evolution. First is, what are the various approaches and methods in the study of behavior? So first is ethology. Then you have comparative psychology, behavioral ecology, sociobiology, Timbergen four rules, four questions. This has been asked in the examination very recently. And what are the various methods? So ethology is natural behavior in the wild, instinctive actions. Comparative psychology, learning, conditioning, lab studies. Then we have behavioral ecology, adaptive rules, cost benefit analysis, sociobiology, evolution of social behavior. Timbergen four rules were mechanism, development, function, and evolution. And what were the methods over here? Observation, experimental manipulation, neurobiological methods, and genetic methods that were there. Then we have proximate and ultimate causation. So proximate causes are how does the behavior occur, right? Ultimate causes are why the behavior got evolved, right?